Now let's talk about a story from DuPont. Now back in 1991, DuPont was noticing that they weren't as competitive as they used to be. In fact, they noticed that there was about a 10 to 30% overage that they were paying for all of their maintenance costs. In fact, there was an average uptime of 10 to 15% lower than the overall industry. So what was causing this? This was probably something at the root cause of all the things that were happening in their factories and why. So they actually looked at this, and it went back all the way to the 1970s where there was an oil crisis, and because they worked with so many petrochemicals, when that price started to spike, they had to cut corners. And where else do you cut corners but maintenance? We got the machines, they're working right now, so let's cut those maintenance guys. Let's get rid of all those parts that we don't need sitting around the plants. So they cut their parts inventory, they cut their maintenance people, and so their machines by nature then were in their manufacturing plants were down more often. And when they needed a part, they didn't have it on hand. They had to rush order it in or have it manufactured custom by a machine shop quickly. So all of these things drove up that cost. And it was a cost-cutting measure that made sense at the time. Like, go down to the bilge, start bailing the ship out. And look, the ship is back to its normal speed. But soon they had to send more people down there. They had to pull more mechanics off the line that should have been working on other things and put them down on the maintenance issues. And then back and forth, it was just plummeting their productivity over time. So that was what DuPont came up with as the reason for their crisis. So you could see that work harder mentality at work here, where that like, hey, if we just work harder, and look, it worked. But over time, they didn't notice the slow downfall of their productivity and their output. That this work harder rather than smarter change effort hurt them over time. So over time, they had a guy named Winston Ledette, who was one of their experienced managers that they threw on the case, okay? And he was tasked with fixing the issue and realized that they were in a capabilities trap that we had just been talking about, okay? And they cut their short-term profits and they began to reorganize, okay? So when they reorganized, they put new people in maintenance, they restocked their parts, and they went through the change story. They did these simulations with their staff so that they could show the staff what was happening. So they would say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to simulate what happens when we go through the work harder blip, and then we lose productivity over time. And they were like, okay, we see that. And then they did the simulations where they did the capabilities trap of work smarter, and they saw, oh, look, we're going to have more investment. It's going to hurt. And we're going to have new people that we're going to have to train, and we're going to lose productivity for a while, but then we're going to gain and gain and gain, and we're going to become a more productive company. And sure enough, over time, they realized a 20% boost in overall productivity, and their runtime of equipment improved by 20%, and their customer service actually improved by 90% as well. So there was a lot of ancillary benefits because they can move their product, and delivery times were cut by 50%. So there were so many benefits to their partners that they were trying to fulfill their orders to, and they were able to successfully navigate this change effort. So this is a great story that gives you an idea how this functions within a large corporation, thinking about a change effort and how to avoid getting stuck in a change effort that has maybe some short-term benefits that blip up, but then the slow progression down to loss of capabilities and loss of productivity versus the, oh no, we're in the short term losing some productivity, in the short term losing some capabilities, but in the long term, we're gaining an organization that will over time be 20% more productivity and less turnover, happier people, happier customers, and it goes on and on. So this is something you'll be able to apply throughout your organization. Instead of saying we don't have time, we're too busy wasting time down in the bilge of our metaphorical ship, bailing out everything. What you want to do is you want to become a great leader who focuses energy on improving people, on valuing people. The more investment you make in there, we've talked about, is a 4-to-1 ratio. and of investment to outcomes being positive. So all of this is what we need to do. We need to start getting through this capabilities trap so you can get to the other side of building a valuable culture that will continue to improve over time. So